FreightWaves continues to follow the incredibly sad story of Indianapolis-based carrier Celadon Group abruptly shutting its doors, leaving 4,000 people without jobs weeks before Christmas. We here at FreightWaves want to help. FreightWaves has established a free job board for companies to post their openings and for people looking for employment in the freight industry to share their resumes. There's no cost for anyone to participate. Hundreds of jobs have already been added to the site since it went live on Monday. If you're looking for employment or have a job to post, head to freightwaves.careers.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Sonar. I'm your host for this episode, Anthony Smith, and I'm here with the Sultan himself, Zach Strickland.
Hey, Anthony. How's it going?
Pretty good. I feel like we've been getting a lot of Anthony Zach time here lately.
Everything from A to Z.
A little too much.
Yeah, a lot.
But so let's just jump right into it. What do we have in This Week in Sonar?
So we have 3 new indexes that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
One of them is my personal favorite because I made it.
Oh,
yeah.
The Sultan himself has a custom index in there.
Yeah, custom index. So one of the big issues about approaching some of the data in Sonar that we get feedback-wise is, simplify it.
Right.
I need something that's easier to approach, look at, so I understand it more cleanly. Well, what we did was we combined the outbound tender market share with outbound tender rejections.
Okay.
And basically what we've done is multiplied outbound tender market share times tender rejection weekly changes to come up with a weighted rejection index.
There it is. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're calling it the weighted rejection index because it's weighted towards the bigger markets.
Right.
So for instance, Bismarck, North Dakota, not a robust freight market, not a lot happening up there in general. 0.012% of total volume comes out of Bismarck. Well, because there's such a low amount of freight volume coming out of that market, any increase or decrease in tender rejection rate is like, okay, so there were 2 loads today.
Yeah.
Half of them were rejected. 50%
Yeah.
rejection rate up, et cetera. I'm exaggerating for effect, but that's basically the problem. So when you're looking at it on a map, you're looking at it on a list, and you see the tender rejection rate increase for the day, which is the most relevant thing that you can look at if you're a broker, potentially if you're a carrier, or actually a shipper. A shipper has the most interest in this because that means that their loads are not getting covered in those markets as frequently as they were before. So, I don't necessarily want to pay attention to Bismarck the first thing.
Right.
Maybe a 1% increase in Atlanta is going to have a bigger relevance. Well, it should have a bigger relevance to anybody in general because Ontario, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Chicago, those markets need to have something that values their rejection rates higher.
Gotcha.
Because they represent the majority of the freight volume in the United States.
Perfect. So essentially what it's doing is taking some of our custom indexes and really making it a little bit more functional, being able to get a little bit more insights from already some insightful information and really being able to make some actionable decisions from it.
Yeah, so you can consolidate it. And really the use case for this isn't in a traditional chart.
Okay.
The chart will tell you over time how impactful that particular market's rejections have been or the capacity tightening has been for the relative market. But the real value here is something that you can look in a map.
Gotcha.
It's just a color, so it's a heat map. It makes the heat map a lot more useful.
Right.
You can now look at all the dark blue colors on the map and say, okay, I do need to pay attention here. It's not like Bismarck or Sioux Falls, South Dakota, somewhere in the hinterlands of Michigan, for instance.
Right.
But at the same time, it does also tell you when those mid-tier markets are having significant disruption.
Gotcha.
So you can put it on the map and you're going to be able to quickly see where I need to pay attention to, prioritize for that day. If you're a broker, you definitely want to make sure that if you have any managed transportation in that area, that's the thing that you look at first. So you go and call your carriers, cover those. Also, look at the spot board in those areas. You should be able to target some of those specific shippers for sure.
Perfect.
And shippers also, I mean, if they have any DCs or any exposure in any of these markets, they can prioritize their day right around it. Again, heat map lists, as well as the heat map itself should be, it makes it a lot easier to use.
Got you. Perfect, perfect. And I have a little something myself going in.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe it's because of all the time we've been spending together and you're talking about real numbers. I have real personal disposable income coming into Sonar. So this is something we already had in Sonar. We had it quarterly but now we got the monthly number broken out because it's monthly data. And we have the year-over-year change, so we can start to see the rates of change and the trends that are starting to happen, as opposed to this consistent rise on a month-to-month basis.
Right. Which is what economists look at in general, right?
It's what they look at in general, and sudden blips really start to cause sign for worry and things like that. But we have real disposable income in there now. We can start looking at trends, but that's essentially what we have in this week in SONAR. We have your weighted
rejection index.
We have some real disposable personal income in there, and we're excited to start using this and really breaking out some awesome comparisons.
Right on. And no big feature releases this week.
Right.
The one last week was the the feedback for the rate predictor model. So anytime anybody that uses that, make sure to go in there and click on that feedback monitor and say, hey, this rate's too low, too high, we don't like it, etc.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Thanks, Zach, for joining us, and thank you so much for tuning in for This Week in SONAR. We'll be sure to keep you posted and stay tuned for next week's features.
In May of 2020, FreightWaves Live is headed back to the largest freight market in the Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia. Join FreightWaves for our best event yet, featuring captivating keynote speakers and rapid-fire demos of technology that is sure to take our industry to the next level. This is your opportunity to interact with some of the most innovative leaders as we mark a new decade in transportation. See you in Atlanta May 5th and 6th.